Welcome to my Mustang Garage. Now that we have that and the jig is leveled out, you got your stands for the rear frame rails, the cross member, and everything welded in and flat. What we have to do next is we've got to put the floor back on here. We've got to put the floor back on here and make the final marks. Because things, when you weld, things will move. It's called contraction, and you know, it has a lot to do with heat transfer. It will suck metal one way or another. And when we put this cross member in, it did move almost 1/4 inch, only because when you weld here where we welded it, it will suck it in a little bit. And when it sucks it in a little bit, it's going to move this panel to where it wants to be. And actually, not the white line, but the red line is where it ended up being. Almost 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch off on just this panel. The rest of this was fine. So what you do is you put it back on here. You slip it back on here, and you're going to take a marker from underneath, mark the sides of the frame rail where everything is, and you're going to come back over here and you're going to measure this flange right here on either side, all the way down. Make sure it's uniform, including the flange on the edges here. And you're gonna make holes every 2 inches, 2.5 inches, right along here. I use a little paint marker to get started. Take an 1/8 inch drill, go through, and then take a step bit and go to 5/16. A 5/16 on the step bit is perfect. You can go larger to, if I'm doing thicker steel, like an 1/8 inch steel, I will go up to a 3/8 inch on the step bit, because I want more surface area to be welded on thicker, but this is just sheet metal to metal, and that will work. So I got all that drilled out and where every weld's gonna be. But now, before I do all that, I have to prep this. I am not leaving this old E-coat on here. It is starting to turn chalky, as you can see right here. I got a little chalky, just rubbing it. E-coat turns chalky over time. I've had this panel for many years now. Ever since before my injury, I've had this panel, and just time turns it chalky. And you don't want to leave this chalky inside there, because after time the chalkiness goes away and moisture starts to attack at it. And I don't know if you ever seen anybody drive down the road with a car, they just put an E-coated fender on and it turns rusty. It will do the same thing inside the frame rail. So what we're going to do is we're going to strip all the paint off. I'm going to show you that and how to do that. Strip all the paint off, and we're going to coat it with a special rust proofing coating just inside the areas we can't reach. I'm going to take off most of the E-coating on the inside of the frame rails here, and also coat the frame rails with a rust proofing. And we're going to do inside this torque box here, and since there's no cover on the torque box, it's easier to get to, and we can just do all that from before we weld the upper torque box on. And then, you know, I'm gonna get all of it down to I'm gonna get it down to 150 grit. You can go to 80, but 150 is good for this material I'm using. And you're gonna coat all of this in here, and coat all of this, And what we're going to do is, after we get this coated, give it a couple days to dry. This stuff does take a long time to set up, especially here being in the winter. And it may be warm here in Georgia right now, but still takes days for this to set up. It's a humidity-based drying cycle on this type of material, and I'll show it to you when I start using it. And right now, the next video will be me showing you how to prep these rails, grind down some welds so these can sit flush when I start welding. And I'm going to paint these with the special paint. I'll talk about the paint, and we'll get that welded on. And I'll show you the special way that gets welded on also, because being a convertible, it is much different from a coupe. We are going to prepare the inside of these frame rails and inside this cross member here to accept some rust proofing coating. It's like a PO for it's like a PO 415 or whatever that stuff is called, but I'm not using that. What we have to do is we have to take off the e-coating. I don't trust the e-coating 100%. What we're going to do is strip it down, abrade the surface, try to get down to bare metal like I have done right here, and get rid of the old e-coating that's on here and clean it up to accept the coating. Now, when it comes to doing the frame rails, I'm only doing inside the lines right here where I marked out where it's covered up. So in between the holes here. And I'm going to clean all that up, even down inside that pocket here. And I have some tools and some stuff to show you how to do that. Let's go over there and I'll show you. Now here's my little tool cart set up. You may say that's not a cart. Well, it's an old bottom to an old computer desk chair where the back broke off of it. I put longer screws in here and it holds my dust mask and my face shield, and just keeps everything handy. It rolls around, it works good. Just an old computer chair. And you know, I'm in a chair myself and I get to roll around, so they can roll around with me. Makes things a lot easier to keep the tools handy. Now, to strip this e-coat off inside the frame to put the coating inside, we have a lot of different options to do it, but this is my preferred. You can do it with an air drill. You can use the air drill. I think it's really heavy, and you're going to be trying to get into some nooks and crannies, so you might want to use the air drill for more heavy duty things. But you can use an air drill if you want, if you have a lighter one. This is a 1/2-inch drill, if you believe it. It is a snap-on, and I rarely ever use this, but it is an option to use an air tool if you want to. You also have the standby electric drill. Anytime you want to use that, you can, but still on the heavy side, because you know it is a big motor in there and it is top heavy and be cumbersome. But my preferred method is a cordless drill. They're usually very, very, very light, torquey, and they usually last a long time. So I'm going to use that. You can use anything you have on hand to, you know, use these things that we're going to do. Now, I have some wire wheels. This is a 4-inch wire wheel I got from Harbor Freight. I don't spend a lot on these things, but I will tell you, Harbor Freight or any other brand, these bristles will break off and come flying at you and turn you into a porcupine. It will stick in your clothes, it will stick in your hair, it will stick everywhere it goes. And the last place you want it to do is stick in your eye. I highly suggest when using a wire wheel, doesn't matter if it's the wheel, the cup, or I don't care if it's the wheel, the cup, or this end wheel, you wear eye protection. And I don't trust just goggles, because I've seen the wires go around the goggles from underneath, and it's a really strange phenomenon to happen. So wear your face shield, keeps it from sticking in your neck and everything else too. And don't wear short sleeves. It will stick into your arm too. You don't need that. So keep your face shield handy. And we are dealing with an old paint product on here, which I consider E-Coat a paint product. You want to wear your face mask. Just a regular face mask like this, or you can use an old COVID mask, or even just a regular paper mask. You just want to keep the dust out of your lungs. It's never good to have any of that. So let's talk about the abrasion now. The wire wheel, we already talked about the wire wheels. We got the disc here. We got the disc here. We got the cup. We got the cup that goes like this. And we got the end. It gets in tight spaces. Now this is a special tool I made up myself. I saw online on another channel. What he did was he took Scotch-Brite pads, and this is a Scotch-Brite Gold, and Scotch-Brite Gold is 150 grit. 150 grit to 220 is about where this coating that I'm putting inside the frame for rust protection calls for to be the perfect grit for it to adhere. I can't put that material directly onto there without abrading it a little bit. You don't have to take it all out, but you want to abrade it really good. And my thing is I try to take as much of it out as I can. So what I do is get a cheap disc pad. Get them on eBay or Amazon, anywhere you can get them. And it's the Velcro backing, and it's a 3-inch. And what I do is I take I got a box of Duragolds, and those are coarse scuff pads. They're the Duragolds version of a Scotch pad, and if you see it right here, it says grit 150. So this is the perfect grit. What you do is you open up the box, take out a pad, and they come like this, and they are scored in the middle so you can break them, which is okay. And what you do is you take the Scotch-Brite pad, and because it's got the hook and loop on here, and this is almost like the Velcro side of it, it'll stick. It's not going to stick like Velcro, but it's going to be very close. And you just put it on there, and you take the scissors and you cut it around, and it will hold it just enough to do the work. Cut them out into these little circular shapes, and you can start prepping your surfaces. And I have a smaller one, which is just the Rolock disc, and I put the 36 grit on here, and that will also grab it. It will also grab it. It's not going to hold on to it like Velcro. What it's going to do is when you put a little bit of pressure on there, it's going to let it spin. So I do that and cut a couple of those, you know, out the scraps that you have left over or whatnot, and just cut them out with the scissors here. Get a good pair of scissors and cut them out. I probably get about 3 or 4 out of this half piece right here. And now that's all I have right now for doing this. And let me get set up and I'll show you how to clean these rails out to get it ready for the coating. Now this is the rear frame rail, passed through the rear. Where the hump is, where the cross member goes across for the shock. What we need to do is clean out this. So I'm going to get my cordless drill and I'm going to put this end in here. The reason why I'm using this, because I can't get deep in there with the wire wheel unless the wire wheel is like 8 inches big, and that's too hard to handle. So put this in, but don't put it all the way down. You know, keep it up to where you can actually get to the bottom of the rail right here and just scuff this up. We're looking to scuff this up. We're not looking for perfection. We're not trying to take everything off. But what we're doing is just cleaning it up. It's like this area right here in this pocket that's under here. This is a stiffening plate for the rear shock. And that goes on here. It's welded, pre-welded when you buy this cross member. And you're just looking to clean it up. What we're trying to do is just scuff it up. Not looking for perfection. We're getting it all clean. It can be bare metal and all that. It's going to all be treated. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do both rails, the cross member, and let me take you over to the other side. Now what we're going to do with the floor pan itself is we have to get it cleaned up also. You can take the wire wheel and get right inside here and get the seam cleaned out. Wire wheel works good. Okay, now that we've taken the wire wheel and on the drill and Scotch-Brite and got most of the coating off of here, I did find a couple little rust spots already starting to form underneath this E-coat. That's why I prefer to scuff it down, take off as much as possible. Even down inside the frame rails right here, I try to get as much as possible. You're not going to get every bit of it off, but when you come across a rust spot, you'll know it. It'll feel rough underneath the pad, scuff pad when you're scuffing it down. We're just trying to get a bite for the rust proofing material that I'm going to put inside the frame rails here to give this a long life. So I did that on both sides. Both frame rails inside are stripped down. Over here, the cross member for the rear shocks is also stripped down and prepped. As you notice, inside the frame rail there, I didn't even bother to take the weld heads down from the plug welds. Why? Nobody ever gonna see it again. And I rather keep it as strong as possible in this area right here, because this is the frame of the car. It's gonna be closed off forever. And when they built these cars in the factory, they put plain steel and welded the plain steel together, and believe it or not, these were raw inside. That's why these cars rusted out so badly in the Michigan and Midwest weather, the Rust Belt. So my plans with this car is to drive this car. This is not going to be a showroom only car and looked at and thought of as just a toy. This is going to be used as a real car in real situations. Will I leave it in the Walmart parking lot? Probably not. But will I drive it and do my daily things? Sure I will. But I'm going to give this the best protection it's going to ever have. Even a brand new one doesn't have this type of protection. So what we're going to do is I went ahead and scotch brayed all this off, and this is the bottom side of the floor pan where I had marked the outlines of the frame rails on here. I've already did the 2 inches. Every 2 inches there's a plug weld drilled out, and I scuffed it all down, got all the E-coat off. I did find a little rust right about here, and I had to get that out. And believe it or not, it started right on the edge where this little spot weld was. And every little rust spot that I found looked like a fingerprint, which tells me they handled this with wet, sweaty hands. And that's why I wear gloves when I work with raw steel. You don't want to leave oil, sweat, and stuff behind on this steel, because what you'll do is every place you touch, you're going to leave a fingerprint, and it will start rusting at that fingerprint. So go ahead, I went ahead and did inside the frame rail here. This is where the frame rail goes into it, and got all that prepped. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to clean it off. I've already blown it off with compressed air, got the dust off. Now our next thing we need to do with this is take it and get it really clean, because I want this coating to actually adhere and stay on there for the life of the car. So that being said, I'm going to show you what I use to clean. First of all, there's 2 products here. One's controversial. This one is controversial. Glass cleaner. I use a sprayway because I like the foaminess action. You know where you're putting it. You're not putting too much. You're not putting too little. But the reason why it's controversial is because everybody says use the waterborne cleaner. Well, this is a waterborne cleaner. And it's a low budget type of a waterborne cleaner. See, this wax and grease remover has its purpose of removing wax and grease and certain contaminants, but it doesn't take off everything. What you need is a solvent base cleaner and a waterborne cleaner. And glass cleaner, you can use Windex, but I like to spray away better. There's a lot in this can. It's a very heavy can. And what you're gonna need for that is these wipe balls. They're lint-free Body Shop towels. And these are wipe ball L40s. Let's get closer on that. Wipe ball L40s. And I use that. Now, what we're gonna put on there is this stuff right here. Once it's all clean, we're going to use this Master Coat Permanent Rust Sealer. This stuff was designed for bridges, steel bridges, to not rust. And it has a super long salt hour test done on it. And they put bare steel, coated it with this, put it outside for a long time. They put it in a special chamber in a lab somewhere, doing salt spray tests on it for hours and hours and hours and days and months, and it doesn't rust. And if it does rust, it will only rust where you did not put the coating. So this stuff is very, very good. This stuff knocks PO15 out of the water. Eastwood is selling a similar type of product, but this is the original Master Coat. You can find it online. It's the Master Series coating line, and you find it online. And believe it or not, you can only buy so much of this stuff. You can't buy like 100 gallons and they ship it to you. You have a limit per year, I believe, of how much you can actually buy of this stuff, because they make their own product. They've been doing it a long time. The reason why they do a limited production is because they have bigger clientele, like New York City Transit Company actually uses this coating to coat metal so it doesn't rust. And this is an anti-graffiti type of stuff. You can paint over this and you can take the paint off of it without bothering the coating. Wherever this stuff lands and dries, it's very, very hard to take off, even with 36 grit. I mean, it turns into a rock. That's how good this stuff is, how well it seals. Wherever you don't want it to be, use some tape. What I'm going to do is, as you see right here, there's holes in the frame right here. Put some tape over it. Just keep it from spilling out, including this hole right here. You know, we don't want it just spilling out at the bottom. And check the whole frame. Like, there's a little hole here, and there's holes here, and there's a hole there. The problem is you don't want this stuff landing on your floor and all that. And, you know, there's another hole here, and there's a slice in this lower torque box. You don't want it spilling everywhere. So seal it up. Now this edge right here is gonna get the spot welds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take tape and I'm just going to tape the edge on either side, and that's going to be treated a different way. Also along this edge right here, because those edges coincide with those holes, which are going to be plug welded to hold this whole assembly, trunk floor assembly, onto the car. This goes all the way up and down both frame rails on both sides and the cross member. But I'm also going to tape it off right here, just about 1/4 of an inch past the hole, but everything on this side of the hole that's not going to be ever seen again is also going to get the coating put on there inside right here. And this is going to be sealed very well right here. It's going to be protected, and I'm going to go all the way to the edge and basically seal this seam right here on both sides. So what we're going to do now is tape up the holes. Okay, this is all dry now. It has 2 coats of it, of the Master Series on the areas. I taped off the areas I don't want the Master Series. I do not want to grind this off to get a spot to weld. So tape up the areas where you're going to be welding. I did that along the whole perimeter of this. And even if it's an obvious area that you're not going to coat, go ahead and tape it up. You don't want to like, oh no, I forgot, that's not supposed to be. Just go ahead and tape it up. You won't forget after that point. The Master Series coating goes on very, very thick. Actually, it was thicker than I wanted it to be. So I didn't have their thinner to make it thinner. But what I did have was their Master Coat Slim, which is the same stuff, it's just already thinned down the spray. So I use this instead. This is okay. I just want it to be more smooth and better coverage for me. This is Master Coat Slim. It's already thinned out. All you have to do is put it in a gun and spray it if you want to. In my case, since I'm just doing the inside of the frame rail, nobody's gonna see. I just took some foam brushes and painted the inside of the rails. And I also did the floor pan area. I went ahead and did, hold on a second. Went ahead and did all the areas inside the frame rails, underneath, all the way down on both sides. This is going to be protected for a long, long time. At the factory, these did not have any coating on them. Believe it or not, they welded these cars together and just painted the cars. That's all they did. So here's the rear floor assembly. I covered up the holes so I don't have to grind off to do some welding when I go to weld the sun. Taped up all the holes so it doesn't ooze out onto the back side. And I did inside the frame right here. There's pockets on either side where the frame slots. And let me show you what I'm talking about. This right here is the pocket. It's basically an extension to the frame. As you see, there's a boxed in part right here. And it goes in between the floor and that. And it gets welded here with welds here, some on the side and on the top. And the frame rail goes inside of here. So anyway, I got that all taken care of and painted with 2 coats. They recommend 2 coats for the Master Series. But I'm showing you the end product of covering the insides of the rails. And I'm going to show you next what it's going to look like without the tape on there, and show you what I have to do to this next to get this prepared to actually weld this floor onto this rear frame area. Now that I got the tape off of it, you can see where I didn't put the rust proofing. What we're going to do is we're going to prep this a different way. As you can see, I have everywhere it's going to be welded bare steel. When you take the tape off, you may have a little bit of rust proofing in the hole. Before it dries overnight, let it sit for a couple hours, take the tape off, and then take a razor blade and ream out the holes. This stuff is like concrete once it sets up after 24 hours. So go ahead and ream out your holes if they filled in. As you can see, I didn't. At the end right here, same thing on the other side. Maybe asking why. Well, this rust proofing will burn, and we're only looking for protection, and I'm leaving it bare steel where it welds. I covered up the holes. I want to give myself like a 1/4 of an inch away from the plug holes, so it's only melting the steel and not the rust proofing with it. And I did the inside right here, but down there where the frame goes into it, I have to drill some holes because that actually gets welded to the end right here. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do next to put protection on this, on the bare steel. Before I do that and put the protection on here, I did notice something. I don't like how this shock plate, which is perfect right here for the shock and perfect in some spots along here. It does overhang a bit right here, and I want to take a grinder and make this flush with this. I may have to do it on the other side too. Let me go ahead and get this set up and I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, I'm gonna trim this off, and I'm just gonna take a nice roll lock with 36 grit on there. Get your safety gear on. Which means put your shield on. And go ahead and find out where it starts. It's right about at this spot weld here. what we need to do now is we got rust protection where we need it the most, but now we need corrosion protection that we can actually weld through. So that's where this comes through. Now that we got this all protected and you can weld onto it, now we're ready to put the floor and actually weld it to the frame of the car. But before we do that, we have to take off this rear support brace that I welded on when I put this together. Now that that cross member from side to side here is where it's going to be, and this has found its level. It's found its level. We can go ahead and take this piece off, but I'm going to keep the front one on until it's ready to put the floor in. And that's not going to be until after the trunk floor is done and we mock it all up.